Yeah, no, I.
Meeting is being recorded. Please press 1 to provide your consent.
Well, oh, she's on there. Okay.
Please press 1 to provide your consent.
Yeah. I'm gonna do one side, here we go. Yeah. I'm going to write about this reading the names. Well, I guess for attendance, you'll pick it up there. Okay. And Diane's gonna be on Zoom. Or just- Well, only if I'm. Upgrade is supposed to be happening soon, so. Great. Oh, yeah, that's gonna help. Yeah. I know when you said your favorite. Oh, yeah. Yeah, her favorite. And I used to make one of my first, so if it's not there, then I really, that kind of, yeah. Harry too. Hi. How are you? See you again. It's nice to meet you.
Good afternoon. I call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum, so we can get started. There may be people coming in late. I suspect there will be because of the rain and the slowdown, etc. But thank you all for braving it and being here. Appreciate that very much. So we will begin with our interpreter giving us some instructions. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ricardo Garcia. I'm along with Gladys Ramos. Instruction to access the interpreter via Zoom on your computer. After the host activates language interpretation mode, click the interpretation icon and select the language that you would like to hear. English and Spanish interpretation is available. Optional. To only hear the interpreted language, click mute original audio. Via phone or tablet, in your remote control, tap more at the bottom right in the mobile phone app and top right in the tablet app. After the host activates the language interpretation mode, select language interpretation and click the language that you would like to hear. If the icon is not visible, tap the screen to make it appear. Reminder, speak slowly, pause between sentences, speak clearly, avoid interrupting or multiple people speaking. Avoid using metaphors, acronyms, slang, or idioms. Interpret signals during the meeting. Speak slower, raise your voice, interrupt for clarification or communicate the concern. Acceso al intérprete a través de su computadora. Después de que el anfitrión active el modo de interpretación del lenguaje, haga clic en el símbolo de interpretación y seleccione el idioma que es chat. Interpretación en inglés y en español están disponibles. Opcional. Para solo escuchar el idioma interpretado, haga clic en omitir audio original. A través del teléfono o tableta, en los controles de la reunión oprima la opción más después de que el anfitrión active el modo de interpretación del lenguaje. Esta opción estará localizada en la parte inferior a la derecha de la aplicación en su teléfono y en la parte superior de la derecha de la aplicación de su tableta. Una vez ahí, seleccione la interpretación del lenguaje y elige el idioma que desea escuchar. Si el símbolo no está visible, toque la pantalla para que aparezca. Recordatorio, hable despacio, pausa entre oraciones, hable con claridad, evite interrumpir o hablar varias personas entre sí. Evite usar metáforas, siglas, doble sentido o modismo. Señales del intérprete donde la junta, hable despacio, alce la voz, interrumpir para clarificación o para comunicar un problema. Muchas gracias. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you. All right, introductions and roll call we do at the same time, so we will start that now with Chris.
Chris Stewart, present.
You just say you're just, sorry, just say your district number also, that's all, those are things.
District 2.
Of course, you don't know, it's a.
Okay. Soledad Barragán, Distrito 5. January Flores, sir.
Sergeant Chris Dyer, Ventura County Sheriff's Office, Law Enforcement Representative. John Stencil, District 1. Daniel Bednar, District 4.
Nancy Borcher, District 3.
Rebecca Gregorian, District 4.
Now here representing the Board of Supervisors.
Sally Garcia, Secretary, District 3.
And I'm Cheryl Hyman, Chair of the Board. District 1.
Good afternoon, everyone. Loretta Dyer, Behavioral Health Director.
And Martha Knudsen with the County Council's Office.
And we have one member on Zoom.
I'm Diane McKay and I'm from District 2.
Okay. We will have to try to control that, but we are getting this updated, which is a good news. So that's Diane McKay, if you didn't hear that, and she's the first vice chair, and she's going to be on an emergency circumstance today, so she can fully participate as a member and counts as part of the quorum. Okay, so we will need a an action to approve the roll call. Do we need action on it? You don't need that, do we, Lynn?
No, that was for members of
Only
just
when you need
cause.
Okay, great, okay.
Good.
Moving along
Whatever.
to the agenda, are there any changes anyone would like to make to the agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda.
So moved. John Stencil.
Thank you. I'm fine with the voices.
Second.
Great, thank you. Moved and seconded, and Sylvia, you'll have to take the roll on that, please. For the agenda.
Soledad Barragán,
Yes.
Daniel Bednar,
Yes.
Nancy Borchard,
Yes.
Chris Dyer,
Yes.
Diamonds, Jeffrey Allen Davis. His name. Chris, Genevieve Florosado,
Yes.
Sally Garcia, myself, yes. Rebecca Gregorian. Yes. Chris Ridge,
Yes.
Diane McKay,
Yes,
You said yes. Yeah. You said yes.
Diana Steve. No, Supervisor Olivia,
Yes.
John Stenfeld, oh, yeah, here it is, motion.
Yes.
And Cheryl Hyman.
Yes, that motion passes, thank you. Now we'll move to the minutes from our last meeting, October 20th. There is one correction so far. Mr. Davis was listed as, Jeffrey Davis was listed as being present, and he was not present, so. That will be one correction to the minutes. Any other corrections or additions? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion to move the minutes as corrected. I'm going to accept the minutes as corrected. Thank you, Nancy. A second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes as corrected. Again. I'm sorry, Daniel. Maybe you didn't call the vote, thanks.
Soledad Barragán. Me abstengo porque no estuve en la. Daniel Bednar,
Yes.
okay. Nancy Borchard,
Yes.
Chris Dyer,
Yes.
Jenny Fodisaro,
Abstain.
myself, Sue Garcia, yes. Rebecca Gregorian.
Yeah.
Chris Ridge,
Yes.
Supervisor LeBear,
Yes.
Diana McKay,
Yes.
Said yeah. You said yes.
John Stencil,
Yes.
and Cheryl Hyden.
Yes, that motion passes, thank you. Okay, moving on to public comments. Do we have any public comments in the room? No? Anyone on the screen? I don't see any hands. And there was one that was sent in, right? Can you include it?
It's attached to the agenda.
Yeah, okay. There was one that was mailed in that is attached to your agenda. And I think that's it. Not seeing any other ones, we will move along. Chair announcements, and I really don't have anything particular except just to remind you that there's a lot of handouts that were attached. A lot of information attached to your agenda this time, and also at the back of the room, if you didn't pick up anything that's new, and also Celine left several more for us at other places. Some of these are some things you're gonna wanna hang on to for sure, because they provide information that's useful for the whole year, really. So, as we get to them, you'll be able to tell which ones they are, I'm sure, but, hopefully you will go through those and, keep those that you feel will be helpful as we go through the year. Okay, moving along to, the director's report, Dr. Denery.
Thank you, Chair. The director's report is attached, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Wanted to highlight a couple of things that are not in the director's report, but we talked about at the last meeting. So related to Proposition 1, the California Department of Public Health, CDPH, held a webinar last Thursday, so this is November 13th. The long-awaited phase 2 guide for population, and so they're calling it their BHSA population-based prevention program. Late last week, the CDPH released kind of an executive summary, and they will be posting the webinar slides and the actual webinar itself, but I will give some highlights. So as you know, this is a huge shift, because currently prevention sits under County Behavioral Health as part of prevention and early intervention, PEI, and current MHSA. And under BHSA, it shifts prevention to the California Department of Public Health. And I'll go into kind of what that's gonna look like. So they basically have broken up prevention into 3 statewide strategies. One is policy initiatives, so looking at responding to novel and emerging substances, responding to behavioral health threats, and then research and evaluation related to some policy items related to safeguarding adolescents, related to smartphone usage, chat bots, and some other policy things. So that's one piece of what they're planning to do is policy work. Another is awareness campaigns. So they're looking at some statewide campaigns on 988 implementation. So that's the crisis hotline, other suicide prevention campaigns, and some SUD, substance use disorder campaigns. They're also looking at some statewide prevention strategies. And so they'll be looking at local statewide plans as kind of a foundation. So historically, most counties have done comprehensive prevention plans. Our county has done strategic prevention plans for many, many years under a substance use block grant on the substance use side. And then our suicide prevention plan we've done for many years under MHSA. So they will be looking at local county examples to help frame what they're gonna be doing statewide. And so some of those strategies include stigma and discrimination reduction, social emotional learning, and then behavioral health awareness. Another strategy that they will be using is, which and all of this is not clear and is not well defined, but this is kind of what they talked about, and I'm giving you the broad based overview. Is they will be looking at kind of 4 additional buckets as far as how the funding will be allocated to address these statewide strategies and policies. One will be through community-based organizations, looking at community-defined evidence-based practices, 988 crisis of behavioral health, research and development and evaluation, and then a regional implementation and focus strategies. The funding mechanism looks to be at this point what they're calling trusted messenger grants. We don't know what that means, so stay tuned for an RFP to come out next year to explain what that's going to be. But essentially it looks as though they will have CBOs contracting directly with the state or through a state administrative entity. The second bucket in the strategy and policy funding category will be training and technical assistance. And so they will be focusing on some primary areas that are consistent with populations that are consistent with BHSA, MHSA, special populations, including older adults, veterans, LGBTQ plus, immigrant population tribes. And then again, they will be using a regional approach to this and then threading through 988, the crisis services. The second dedicated carve out will be to tribal entities. So the CDPH will host a formal tribal consultation process to determine what that looks like. And so that'll be a set aside there. And then the final bucket in this category has to do with the local health jurisdictions. So our local public health departments, they will be asked to act as local prevention coordinators and will coordinate convenings, including basically all of the coalition works related to suicide prevention, opioid and substance use prevention, and partner with county behavioral health plans, Medi-Cal managed care plans, and other CBOs. There's only $12 million allocated to that. There are 58 public health departments and 3 cities who have their own, so that's 61 jurisdictions to divvy up $12 million. So not a lot. And the state's expectation is that they fund at least 1 FT towards that work. The state is also creating to kind of manage all of this at CDPH because this is a new venture for them. They're creating what they're calling the Office of Social and Behavioral Health. They're supposed to work kind of across CDPH to look at existing behavioral health related programmatic experiences. And they will work across the aisle with Department of Healthcare Services, DHCS, to ensure some sort of kind of alignment with what we do on the behavioral health side. So that is your like 3-second overview of the webinar from last week. They have not posted the slides yet. I checked this morning. They haven't posted the executive summary or the slides or the actual webinar itself. But once it is posted, we will send that out. The DHCS sent a communication out this morning saying it was posted, but we went on and looked at it. So we will send it as soon as we get it. Any questions?
No.
Yeah.
That's your,
I think Diane has a question.
oh, Diane is, oh, sorry, Diane.
I'm just curious. I'm curious about the money.
Thank you. Great help. Okay,
Curious
Diane.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm curious about the money. So does that department that they're forming also come out of that little sum that they're dividing between everybody?
Well, the little sum was the 12 million, which is for the local health jurisdictions. The California Department of Public Health are actually getting quite a bit of money because they're
Okay.
getting the entire BHSA allocation statewide. They're getting 5% of that entire population, so it's billions of dollars they're getting statewide.
Okay.
So that's where Our local allocation is being reduced by an extra 5%. To 10%, 5% is going for administrative costs, 5% is going to the California Department of Public Health, so they're getting a cut of everyone's local allocation. So it is a lot of money going directly to the state, and so they, you know, a lot of people have a lot of questions as to what are we gonna do with it, and last week they didn't really get into too much of how much is going where. But, you know, the number one question people have been asking is how much are the local health departments getting? And so they put that $12 million number there.
Got it. As much as I possibly can, given, given that they're not saying much.
We're having to control the Zoom
Yeah.
with, it's just it hasn't been that way all the time, it's developed into that, so, anyway, sorry, Nancy.
I just wondered, and I'm hearing this wrong, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit out of touch, but, the 12 million is for the whole, I thought that was dedicated only for the public health part of that piece. But it's not, didn't I just heard you say, I think, that it was also the allocation for the whole behavioral health department, is that?
No, so the 12 million is for the local public health departments, so like ours down the street.
Right.
12 million divided by all,
7 counties.
well, 58 plus 3 cities have their own public health departments, so there's 61 jurisdictions that are splitting $12 million. So it's not a lot of money.
No.
Yeah.
Were any of you able to tune into this webinar? No, okay, well, it was interesting, although a little confusing. I thought if you're not really part of the system, that's why I asked Loretta to give a little summary. But it was interesting to see it. I think the questions for me, there were a lot of questions that came out of it that aren't yet answered. Especially for that large amount of money that is gonna go to public health. And is that where our local CBOs will be able to, do you think, access some of that?
Well, I mean, that's the assumption, but what that's gonna look like, we don't know. They're saying that there is a role for local CBOs, but it looks like they're going to be doing RFPs, so request for proposals next year, for CBOs to apply directly. So basically, they would be applying directly to the state. Again, that's where we're asking, so what is the coordination at the local levels, and so many of the CBOs work closely with us or the public health department. So how does that both factor in, and, you know, those questions have gone unanswered so far.
So I think that's a good area for us to keep in mind when we're looking at goals, because it might be good for the department to have some feedback from us in terms of if we're going on and doing site visits on prevention. Since this is such a big area that we really don't have the control as a county that we have had in the past, and this is an opportunity for us to maybe give some input on that, so it's just something to keep in mind. Any more questions? Yes, so
I know the last RFPs for prevention under behavioral health was the last MHSA grants, correct? When will those finish out? And then after that, like, what's the timeline of behavioral health, just concentrating on moderate to severe?
Oh, so that's already happening. I think the question is the current prevention providers, when do their agreements expire? So we're doing a rollover year because everything is still in transition, so we're able to do a rollover year. So those providers things will change in 27. I'll say it that way. Once the state has given more information, because at this point, this is as much as information that we have, and we're halfway through this fiscal year, and it starts in basically 6 months, because the end of this year is pretty much already here. So that would only give us 6 months, and that's not enough time. And we don't feel like that's good for our CBOs that are currently under contract. So since we have the ability to roll over some year one funds under BHSA, we're going to be able to keep that work going and help transition into whatever this becomes, once CDPH kind of has a little bit more direction.
Yeah, I'm just trying to wrap my mind like, because, prevention from moderate to severe, delineating what programs follow, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, so all of that work is well underway, and so our current CBOs are all engaged in that process, and so this isn't news to them. We've been talking to them very regularly since basically VHSA passed, Prop 1 passed. But we've been going off of kind of the little bits and pieces we've gotten from the state, and this is pretty much the most concrete information we've gotten about the prevention piece. And so we just knew we're not gonna have the money anymore, but we didn't know where the money was going. And so now we'll have a little bit more sense of what that's like, but again, because CBPH isn't putting anything out until early next year, that still doesn't give our CBOs a whole lot of time, and we still don't know how much money is up for grabs as far as, what they're doing. So since we're able to roll over some folks for another year, we're going to, and then hopefully in 27, when we have more direction from the state, we'll be able to help them transition.
I'm just curious if we have any monies that kind of left over in the MHSA. That, there was always sometimes, not always, but occasionally there would be instances where if you didn't use the money, it would go back to the state. Do we have any of those pots of money laying around?
So yeah, that's what I'm talking about, so that's the rollover, so
Okay.
the way the legislation is written, it's old money, old rules, new money, new rules. So we will have enough old MHSA to roll over one more year for those current prevention providers. And then once we'll start to receive a BHSA allocation in July of 26. Moving forward, those dollars cannot be spent on prevention, and those will be the new programming. So they'll be able to be maintained for one more year with the existing dollars.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Anything else? Okay, we're gonna move to our presentation for today. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, just one more update on the HCA front. Dr. Cho is on a leave of absence, but will be back next month. In the meantime, we have an interim director, John Freeman. He's a consultant with HMA. Before that, he worked for many years in LA County Department of Public Health and LA County Managed Care Plan, LA Care. So he will be here to help us while she's out.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're moving on to our presentation, it's the behavioral health plan service continuum. Karen Lee, who is the chief manager of care operations and quality care of, of managed care operations and quality care. Thank you for being here, Karen.
Yeah, it's on there, musical, Brett. I know, like. Oh, yeah, that's. Oh,
Now
that's part of your, yeah, okay,
it's me.
okay, I'm just making sure.
Might need
Gonna
to,
sing.
get a little longer. My name is Karen Lee. I am the chief of managed care operations. We are the newest division. You guys can hear me okay? So I've been here 5 years, coming next week, actually. So, I should get my little certificate.
You will get your.
I know. Thank you so much. And so, I wanted to kind of start off with this because everything else that I'm going to talk about is gonna be about policies, it's gonna be procedures, it's gonna be like what it needs to be, what it should be. And I just want to take a moment to kind of go, like I literally were walking out by like this song. I'm not gonna sing, don't worry, don't worry, that would be scary. But I think many of you, if you watch Glee, you kind of know it. If not, if you actually watch Rent, you also know this. I'm gonna see if I can kind of play it, but the background is that, the musical kind of came out at the height of the HIV epidemic. And the kind of gist of it is that, it's an outcast aspect of a population that needs to be heard, need to be seen.
And I want to take a moment to kind of remind us that in our day-to-day, even though in my role oftentimes it's like, hey, cross the T, dot the I, but we never forget the people behind those policies. We don't forget what we're kind of doing all of these things for. And so in today's society, some people say loneliness and fear are also at an all-time high. It's an epidemic. And our population, especially, not just the social and the family, but also their diagnosis, their in some way the disadvantage. And what they also need obviously is the being heard, being seen. But to balance it all, we cannot forget that they also have choice of autonomy. And that autonomy sometimes is a struggle for our staff, right? Because they make choices, they have the right to make choices, and yet sometimes these choices are not best for them. And so every day, our staff are balancing that. What is healthy for them, but also what is giving them their dignity and their right to kind of make those choices. So I say that because as we move forward, as you can see the PowerPoint, there are things that might be concerning or, might be different than previously. Just know that those are not easy decisions that all of us have to make on a daily basis. All right, so let's see if I can play 30 seconds of this. Because as a compliance person, I verify that without violating copyright laws, we have 30 seconds, right, Marty?
Fair use guidelines.
See. Sorry, that's your 30 seconds. You can go home and finish. I know some of you really want to sing this. I can feel it, the tension, the tension. All right. Okay, I introduced myself already. We're gonna talk about service continuum. We always kind of start out with the punchline first, because that's kind of easier. And so the punchline for today is that we are going to clarify that we no longer have an identity crisis. We actually have dual identity. We are a behavioral health plan, but we're also a county operated provider. We provide services, but also we're a health plan. We're a health plan that is state mandated. We have to comply with a state agreed upon with us, a mutual agreement on service contract. And the county also provides services. Obviously, as we kind of go through other slides, we're also aware that there are CBOs that are supporting and providing some services. But all that is to meet the requirement of the service agreement that we have with the state. And then the second is that explain eligibility and level of care. So this is kind of like one takeaway, if you do not remember anything I said today, is anytime we see the word eligibility, it means insurance. It means, do you have our insurance that we're contracted with, all right? So for us, eligibility means Medicare. And so level of care means that we are moderate to severe. And so if it's a lower level of care, they go to Gold Coast. All right, that's the punchline. And then we're gonna define how services are accessed. And then we're also going to look through the specific of the continuum of care flow, all right? And if you have any questions, jot them down and then we're happy to answer them. All right, so here, there's a lot of words. I'm gonna trust that you guys will take your time and come through them. I'm gonna just highlight the key point. The key point of this slide is really about, we are partner to our MCP, our managed care plan. Here in this county, the largest partnership, and I'm gonna keep reminding everybody, we are a plan, just like GoCo is a plan, Kaiser is a plan. So we're a partner to them. Wanted to highlight that, you know, sometimes when we kind of meet with, HCA, our healthcare agency, even our MK and our hospitals sometimes get confused. And then what they're saying is that, oh, but we're both obligated to Gold Coast. We're not obligated to Gold Coast, we are partner to Gold Coast. Our M-Care and some of the services under HCA are contractor of Gold Coast. So they are obligated to Gold Coast. Okay? So we kind of go back to this eligibility. You see eligibility, it means insurance, right? So we know, and it's Medi-Cal eligibility that we're gonna talk about. I think the funnel illustration is the easiest to kind of focus on. Is that eligibility, do we have insurance? So that is what we ask when people kind of access our care, is that, do you have our insurance? Right, and we all know, if, just like everybody else, if we utilize our own healthcare insurance, right, if I have Kaiser, and then I want to go to a doctor that is a Blue Cross provider, I can go, but I'm gonna have to pay out of pocket, right? They're not gonna approve that. So I think sometimes that's the lesson that we have to learn on an ongoing basis. Because what happened is that if we access or allow people to access services that are not like insurer, what would happen? We're not gonna get paid for those claims, right? And then so level of care, as I mentioned, we're gonna talk about, you know, the next page is that, what tools we're gonna use to kind of access, assess the level of care. But here it's really kind of focusing on, once that we verify that they have Medi-Cal as an insurance, then they still need to be funneled, they need to be screened, whether they are managed care plan, which are the mild to moderate, or our behavioral health plan, which is moderate to severe. So if you can hear, you're like, wait a minute, how come both of them are moderate, right? Because people get better, and sometimes people relapse or get severe, right? So that moderate level sometimes is a share responsibility, because we don't want anybody to drop, right? We don't want to have them fall between the gaps. So I do want to highlight one point is that the third kind of little boxes, right, is that individual with commercial insurance, all of those, they're not eligible. So what happened is that we've been struggling a bit on this one, because we do know that traditionally we have kind of safety net or you know, uninsured or. But at this point, the reality is that because remember the first slide, I said we no longer have an identity crisis, right? We know who we are, and who we are is a Medi-Cal provider for moderate to severe population. So what happened is that if we service a non-contracted individual, that spot is being taken up by someone that is going to remove from our contracted member. Right, so we're gonna have one spot less for each individual that are outside of our scope. And then second is that empathy might be unlimited, right? We feel for those who are in need, but unfortunately, resources are not limitless. So here is what we're talking about, the level of care. So once we determine that they have Medi-Cal, and what we do is we have screening tools that are basically state provided. They will have to meet their criteria. They're called screening. There are two types. So one is the screening tool, and the second one is the transition of care tool. So the screening tool is that at the front door, our access line, they do a screening that is standardized to kind of ensure that are they going to be fall under the Gold Coast umbrella or the DCPH umbrella? And then at times, like I mentioned before, that there are times that people kind of move in and out of system. And so if they are going to be transitioned to a lower level of care, we do a transition of care tool to kind of ensure that there's a smooth transition to Gold Coast. And Gold Coast does the same thing, right? If they're seeing a Medi-Cal eligible individual and then their symptoms become more severe, they do a transitional care tool to bring to us. We have data and we have methodology to ensure that what we call a closed loop referral. And those are being monitored on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. So again, there's no gap and no one is being dropped. All right, we kind of go back to looking at one agency and two distinct functions. So the BHB plan, just wanted to kind of ensure that we're not kind of deciding on this on our own, right? I have mentioned that we have contract with DHCS, but also Medicaid, which is a federal CMS governance, we're also accountable to the Medicaid system. And then therefore, we kind of move into the DHCS integrated contract. So as you can see, we provide both specialty mental health services, but also the MCODS, which is drug Medicare services. And then the county operated provider, they are our direct service provider. The next one, we can kind of see that, right, for responsibility. So my division, managed care operations, department that are finance and our strategic planning and administration. And then also our executive team that are all of our chief and our seniors and all the key leader. We are the entire team that kind of work together to support Dr. Dennering, our behavioral health director, for this particular functions. So as you can see, these are divided up. Those are larger plan functions. Our division have about 60-something people. A typical health plan has about 150 to 200 people for these tasks. So I would say that majority of us wear about 3 hats on a daily basis. Okay. Now this is what we're kind of looking at in terms of being the direct service network and direct service provider. And the core obviously is our operation division, our critical care navigation, our outpatient clinical operation, and our forensic justice and reentry. Those are the divisions that really focus on direct service operation. And then within managed care operation division, we have provider network management that support the network adequacy, right? Whether we have sufficient provider for the number of beneficiary in a county assigned to us by the state. Those are managing their CBO contract and the ratio of whether those are sufficient. These services, as you can see, are part of our integrated contract with the state, Prop 1 mandate, and also include housing and also other interventions that have to do with social determinant of health. So this is the continuum of care in a mapping order. The top kind of blue section, as you can see, those are labeled all of our SUD services that we're obligated to. And then the bottom is our specialty mental health services. The two gray boxes are really more of that top one, important, you know, in addition to our contracted. So those are our housing intervention, and then also the justice involved special adjunctive services that now we are obligated to. In terms of our own clinic, we do majority of the outpatients. But as a plan, we are responsible to ensure that all of these continuum functions are being fulfilled. So they are all being filled by our CBOs or partners, or sometimes we do single case agreement to ensure that if something is requested that we cannot provide internally, we make sure that those are additional contract that we do with outside of our normal scope, and ensure that those are being fulfilled. Okay, I do not expect anyone, including myself, to read this one. But as you can see, I think this is the left, it's all the different categories. And then the middle section, it kind of gives an example of what those services are. And then the right side, it kind of say, how are we fulfilling those obligations? So it's either BCBH direct service or contracted provider. Some are referral, and then some are mixed. So I think that if you use a magnifying glass, you can kind of take a look. Sorry. Okay, here's our safety net functions. The terminology is can be misleading because even when it comes to safety net, as you can see, who is the safety net really serving? It's our Medi-Cal beneficiary, it's the uninsured residents, and hopefully we can assist them to obtain Medi-Cal if they're eligible. And then the individual under the court order or public safety mandates who are not being served under the safety net. Those are oftentimes the commercial insurance or EPP, other managed care, mild to moderate, because they belong to Gold Coast jurisdiction. And then also to anyone that are non-state DHCS insured. I do want to say that, I think it's in a later slide, but I'll mention it here, is that, there are times that when our current client, their insurance change, or for one reason or another, we do not immediately end their services, right? We support, transition, we kind of do what we call warm handoff. We kind of assist them to kind of get in touch with their new insurance, or we do some transition of care that we have even, you know, in our clinic level. All insurance have what they call continuum continuity of care benefit. So with existing service provider, they can request their new insurance for a 12-month extension. But it's up to the new insurance to approve or disapprove. So we can do the work in applying, but we have no control over whether they approve of that continuum of continuity of care benefit or not. So I just want to mention that. Okay, this is just really a summary of, sorry. Of the alignment, as you can see, it kind of goes from prevention, outpatient, intensive and residence, inpatient, and also recovery support services. As you noted, the arrow go both ways. Again, we are always mindful that, when it comes to behavioral health and social determinant of health, right? Due to housing, due to relapse, due to unforeseen circumstances, they can kind of go up and down. So we are always mindful of that in our system. So this is the, many of these terminology you guys are familiar with, at least heard nonstop in the last 3 years. They're still here, reminding us that they're not going away until 2027 or until 2030. And so, but I think the key is that the objective is that the federal government and the state is looking to the county behavioral health plan to ensure that we provide a coordinated, data-driven, and whole person care. So a lot of the data now is going to be telling the story. In the past, so we can kind of, explain how our services or intervention are helpful. Now they're looking for data and they're setting their own data standard. So that is why that when they say coordinated system, we have to be very mindful, right? Like I mentioned, if someone's insurance changed, we have to assist them to go from one system to another in a warm handoff. But as you can see, this is what anyone who call an access line are entitled to if they meet our eligibility. I'm gonna ask you guys at the end, what does eligibility equal? All right, so here we're reaching to the end. Summary and takeaway, right? Our takeaway is that we serve dual role. We wear 2 hats all the time. We are a service provider and also a health plan. We, eligibility equal, here it come, equal, somebody shout it out. Insurance, yes, thank you so much. And our level of care have to do with either partnership, right? So level of care or partnership, Gold Coast, Kaiser, or BCPH. Safety net are for Medi-Cal and uninsured. And then our mandate is to ensure quality, access, and equitable specialty mental health services to those who are entrusted to us by the state. And I'm actually gonna leave this slide for Dr. Dennering to read.
I get some more.
Yeah, so this is kind of what we've been talking about for the last few years. And kind of the changing narrative of county behavioral health and how we fit into the overall behavioral health continuum. That county behavioral health is not all things behavioral health. And that is new for many people. It's new and it's hard for a lot of folks who've just been able to do everything because that's what we've always done. But really the state is wanting us to focus on being the specialty system, the behavioral health plan for the Medicaid eligible, meet medical necessity for moderate to severe services, and to ensure that we coordinate with the proper delivery systems. So whether that's the Medi-Cal managed care plans like Gold Coast, commercial plans like Kaiser or Blue Shield, ensuring that everyone has a shared responsibility and that county behavioral health is not doing everything for everyone.
All right, thank you. That is our closing statement.
Questions? Thank you very much. That was really a great presentation. This, you made it understandable, so it was really nice. Thank you. Questions or comments, John?
Yes, I have a question. Can you tell us how managed care plan, BCBH, interacts with a partner called Gold Coast, which they subcontract out all of the mild to moderate to Carolina?
We actually have a monthly meeting with both Gold Coast and Carillon. And in terms of coordination is, like I mentioned, we have those referral, right, to the transition of care or we, the well, the bottom line is we keep two lists and then we exchange a list on a daily, weekly and monthly basis. And then we meet monthly to ensure that those kind of going crossover to each other's system do not get lost in the system and in the transition. Right now, we're the only county that are doing it regularly and doing it well.
Yeah, that's from the plan standpoint. We actually went up to Sacramento last week and presented with Gold Coast on that whole partnership because it's actually pretty rare that the behavioral health plans and managed care plans are working that closely together. So that's as part of our plan functions. And then from a clinical operations standpoint, our county provider, so like our clinics, they will be and talk regularly, like daily, with a clinician at Carillon or a clinician over at Gold Coast if that's what's needed to coordinate care. For a lot of members, we have shared responsibility depending on the diagnosis. We have plenty of folks who come in and they receive eating disorder services through us or through Gold Coast, and then they may also have therapy through Carillon or through us and vice versa. So there can be daily kind of exchanges on the therapeutic side. And then on Karen's team, looking at from the plan standpoint, the quality standpoint, regular data exchange as well.
Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, and just, keeping up with everything and learning, so it's a great presentation, a lot of information, and I was just curious, in some of these areas, I'm learning the role of the BCBH and but like the housing and recovery supports, and it talks about like the BHP oversight, mixed county, coordinates mental health. Can you talk a little bit about like kind of the role you play in the housing and recovery support efforts? Just
Sure, I'll take that. Sarah, where is Sarah? Yeah. So housing is a new service line for us, and that came under Proposition 1. So before that, we would coordinate with like our continuum of care and, how a little bit of housing here and there, but it wasn't something that behavioral health did specifically as far as funding or coordinating. It was just part of like case management duties. Now, clearly, housing is a service line. 30% of our EHSA goes towards housing. And so that's a huge game changer. So as far as coordinating with the housing providers, becoming basically providers ourselves, entering into agreements with hotels and other housing types, like now we're doing that on behalf of the plan, because that's a plan function. And then our staff who are providing direct service will refer people into them should they have a housing need. And so we will coordinate with Gold Coast, who also does some housing through their community supports, and we work closely with them. One project that you'll hear more about next year is transitional rent, not a project, it's an initiative. It's a new Medi-Cal benefit for Gold Coast that has some overlap with behavioral health. And so it's just a whole new world housing for us.
no, thank you.
Good questions. Any other questions? And Andre, who actually requested this topic, isn't here, but he'll be able to get it online later, so that's good.
He's
He had one question about, you mentioned Kaiser and Blue Shield and that. And how does that interact with those plans? How do you interact with those plans?
So Kaiser is also an MCP for this county, but their percentage is so small. We're still finalizing our MOU with them. And so it will be, our obligation will be similar. I think it's just a number of beneficiary it's gonna be smaller. But because we have a really good template with Go Coast, then we're just gonna oftentimes carbon copy of what is the processes and yeah, at this point, with their negotiation with us, it's almost like they kind of shrug their shoulder a little bit. Because Go Coast is like, I think, 90%. And then so they kind of have a carve out of like 10%, so they have other county which are much larger, so in some way, I hate to say it, but they have bigger fish to fry than to argue with us. But yeah.
So that's specifically on their Medi-Cal side with Kaiser. When it comes to the commercial side of Kaiser or like Blue Shield, Blue Shield commercial, that's a little different story. So that's what we're talking about, pre-authorization, right? So if someone shows up and they have a commercial plan, the first thing we're gonna say is, well, thank you for being here. We're gonna sit with you and we're gonna give your insurance card, we're gonna turn it over and we're gonna call and we're gonna talk to them. Because if we do any services, we run the risk of not getting compensated for it. And historically, that's what county behavioral health has done. They've just taken anybody who's come in regardless of their insurance status. If you do that and you don't have pre-authorization, they will deny your claim. And so that's what counties are saying, is that they're billing for services for members who are receiving their insurance through another plan, and the plan saying, hey, I didn't authorize you to do it. So counties have always eaten that cost. The state is saying, no more of that. You need to enter into agreements, get pre-authorizations, do what you need to do, if you're gonna serve them. And what they're really trying to do is through the Department of Managed Healthcare, which is the commercial plans, DHCS, is they're trying to encourage them to get their own networks. So that our networks are for the Medicaid population, because as Karen noted, for every commercial plan member we take, that's one less Medicaid slot. And that's, we don't want to eat up our Medi-Cal spots for someone who has insurance elsewhere. So that's what the state is trying to clean up. And they're trying to lean on the Department of Managed Healthcare to say, hey, you need to have adequate networks. And in 2017, when mental health parity law was expanded in California, the commercial plans got the same obligations we got on the Medi-Cal side to provide behavioral health services for their plan members. So Kaiser's, Blue Shields, and everyone else.
Okay. But they didn't do it.
And if they, which they have not, and many of them, they get sanctioned. And that's all public. You can Google Kaiser sanctions, and they're getting sanctioned left and right, especially in certain parts of the state where they have an inadequate network. Because people are not being able to receive services in a timely manner or at all. And then those folks unfortunately decompensate and then end up in our system.
Thank you. John?
How many enrolled members do you have in the Ventura County healthcare plan?
Specialty behavioral health plan, because there is a healthcare plan, which is down the street, that's what. The specialty behavioral plan. So right now we have about currently 10,000 active clients.
10,000.
Sylvia?
I've just been studying the slide with the continuum of care overview. It's really helpful.
I think we have a,
Together, but
I think we have a larger one that is both sides that they're gonna even provide, so it's easier to read, so it's not so tiny.
But from what I see, so this is for Medi-Cal overview, right? The continuum of care for Medi-Cal.
Yes.
And then for 2027, the thing that will change for BCBH is that the prevention and early intervention services will then be coordinated with public health, correct?
So the changes for the entire state, not just us, under BOF one, the prevention piece goes to public health. Early intervention stays with county behavioral health.
Oh, with that, okay, I was so confused on that.
Yeah, the definition of early intervention changes. It's not the same as what it is currently under MHSA, but it does remain with county behavioral health.
And what, Where is the new definition?
So without getting too in the weeds, they're really aligning things with more like our BC-POP program, our early psychosis program. Basically more intense level of early intervention as opposed to just prevention plus, is what I'll call it now.
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking, because on the BH Connect, there was the early intervention for schizophrenia. And so I was like, oh, I guess that's prevention now, but that would still be under early intervention.
Correct.
Oh, that's really good,
Yes.
because that would make it too confusing if you were trying to do an early diagnosis for schizophrenia and it went under prevention, but that'll stay with BCBH.
Yeah, the prevention typically is without a diagnosis. So that's outreach, engagement, navigation, health education, that's, lower level or population-based prevention as opposed to early intervention, which you may have a diagnosis, but again, it's early on in the course of the treatment, which is not prevention, because at that point they already have a diagnosis.
Okay, thank you so much.
Any other questions? John? Go ahead, it's okay.
So I'm just. There we go. Does Clinicas also have their own plan? And do they enroll behavioral members? I mean, do they have enrolled behavioral members?
So they contract with Gold Coast Health Plan, and they have a certain number of lives. They also see, as part of that, some mild to moderate folks. And we currently, under old MHSA, do some work with them through PEI, Prevention Early Intervention, that again, will all change under BHSA. But there is some programming currently that they do that is funded through us, that is more on the mild to moderate side through PEI.
As just a follow-up, it seems like 10,000 compared to the total population of Ventura County of what, 840,000? It seems like it's a very low number.
So that's active treatment. So remember, folks go through the continuum, right? So that's in any one snapshot, the folks who are actively receiving services. That's not people who Karen can come. Yeah, that's not people who have maybe transitioned to a lower level of care, or maybe have transitioned to a higher level of care, or who maybe now have commercial insurance. That's any one day, how many folks are getting served in our county, who are currently open in our system.
Yeah, so I would say that the 10,000 is in the right place, in the right level. I think, open cases, about 100, 15,000, 13,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? All right, and thank you again very
You're
much.
welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. And these are the kind of materials it's good to keep with them. Board member comments, is our next agenda item, any board members have comments they wanna make? Nope, not seeing any, okay, we'll move along then to old business. Once again, we are talking about goals, but I think we're gonna narrow this down for 25, 26. So, we're setting goals for our ad hoc committees. We have a couple already formed, and we're looking for additional goals, and I'm gonna talk about what we do have going on so far. This can be one big goal divided up, it can be, we can start with, where we did talk a lot about doing site visits as a goal. And that we can certainly refine a little bit, and then from that, one of the options would be just come back and say to the full board, this seems to be a pattern, or we're seeing this, or, something to that effect, and we can then develop another goal. So it doesn't have to be done all at once, is my point. We just need to start. We do have a procedures and protocol ad hoc committee that's already been established. If there's anybody else who wants to be on that, Marlene Torres did say she'd like to be a part of that. So we're adding her to it. So if anybody else wants to be a part of that, that's great. It simply is setting for our own board policies and procedures, which follows the bylaws that we recently passed. And it's not going to be terribly labor intensive, but it does bounce in that out committee, so who's interested in serving on that. All members of the board are asked to serve on an ad hoc committee. So you're it's an ad hoc committee, so that is one. The second one, of course, is the executive committee, which is elected, it's already functioning. So now we're back to what we're gonna do in terms of looking for goals. And we did, like I said, talk last time, I think, about site visits. We've seen more and more important as we get into all these changes that are gonna be happening and occurring. In allowing us to not only learn more, but then to also pass that information on to the department and ultimately possibly to the board of supervisors. So I think it's someplace for us to start. And as I said, we can add to it, change it, whatever, as we go along. This would be a short term between now and the end of our fiscal year, which is we end in June, start of the fiscal year, July. We would like to have something to report back to the board. We can continue it on if we need to, but that's kind of our goal at this point. So what we need to establish is an ad hoc committee that's gonna take this on, if this is a goal of our general board today. Meaning that you would then be developing how we would do these visits, what we would prioritize in terms of the visits that we wanna do, looking at those suggested questions. And information was passed out, I think, last time about what we might be looking for, questions that we might be asking, how we report out, etc. So if this is, first of all, we have to establish this as a goal. So is this something that the board is interested in continuing to work on? John?
Yes, I think I think it's essential, and especially doing site visits to prevention, CBOs. If we're gonna go through this major or drastic downsizing, we should figure out who's out there and who's going to remain as well. So I think those site visits are important.
Daniel?
Yeah, no, I just echo it. I think it's essential for us to go and visit these to give us a perspective and to be able to contribute valuably to the board. So I think it should be a major priority.
Anybody else? Oh, Diane.
I was just saying, I was giving it some that I agree.
Turn off when she comes out, because then it prevents some of that feedback. I don't see any lights. Good.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the goal should be, I mean, it might be ambitious, but to try and do one site visit a month so that we can get some of these CBOs done.
Okay. Anybody else? Sorry.
I mean, I would support that. I just also, which I haven't structured yet, as long as we can also have a goal under about equity and cultural competency. Like along with that, and that would be fun.
Okay, so you're talking about kind of weaving it in, so as you do a site visit, you're looking at that also.
No, a separate goal.
Okay, so you're gonna bring that back. Okay, okay,
But it's better, yeah,
Yeah.
formulate.
okay. Was there somebody else who, Nancy, yeah? I'm just wondering which places, I agree, absolutely agree. We haven't done site visits for a long time, and I've been on this board so long that that's pretty much all we did at one point, you know. And we visited many, many places, in county, out of county, every place where our people were. And it's hugely important, and it's eye-opening. And you can't really imagine it. Sometimes it's wonderful and sometimes it's not so much. I'm wondering, like, where are we talking about going at this moment? We have a limited moment. So I'm thinking, do we have any ideas about where we want to go and what we want to see? Well, no, we haven't really gone that far, except we have had the prevention discussion that came up last time also. But I think that's up to the board, but it's also, what I was hoping is the ad hoc committee would be able to meet and talk about the goal, you know, where they would see us as needing to go. We do have to actually, of course, narrow it down into some kind of, we want to narrow it down to some kind of special topics or that's issues so that we're not going all over the place and because we can then add on to that. So if we go someplace and a couple of places and we say, oh, we want to do more of this or change or whatever, we can do that too. Daniel?
Is there a master list of, locations that we have? Okay.
That's why if we have this narrowed down into whatever we want to do, like Tate was one of our things from last year. We want to narrow, I'm just throwing out these different topics, but if we want to narrow it down, then we would have a list of all the CPOs that participate in that or prevention, whatever it is. Yeah.
And the ad hoc committee is responsible for selecting locations, or you want the ad hoc committee to bring a proposal and say, hey, here's these places, or do you want them to actually coordinate the visits, get it set and give people date time options?
It can be either, once we set the goal of either how many we're gonna do or what the topics are gonna be. The ad hoc committee then can take off and do the rest of that with the scheduling and all that kind of stuff, so. Or we can do that here and say, we wanna specifically start with this particular topic and then move to something else. It's really up to the board. It can be done either way.
Yeah, I always like to have a committee that comes with a recommendation to the overall board, because sometimes in conversations can go all over. The recommendations, that's just my
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah.
I'd be on that ad hoc committee if we're taking volunteers.
Great. Okay, did you?
Same question, actually.
Oh, okay, okay. So we first have to decide, is this gonna be a goal that we're gonna do site visits? And then we can refine it from there, but we just need a board goal, basically, either how many or where we wanna do them, if we can just have kind of a general. Something to say, this is our goal, we can just do a number, we don't have to do anything more specific than that to start with. Yeah, go ahead.
So first off, I believe it's a responsibility of the board to make these visits. I think it's good for it. One of the main goals. Asking for the group, so how do we, so I say yes, I mean, should we just vote on this, how's this work, so.
Yeah.
Do the game.
Well, if the board, I think we do have to vote on it, obviously, if we wanna make it a goal, so yes, so we would have to have a motion of what we're gonna make as our first goal. Might be our only goal, but if we wanna make this site visits a goal for this particular board, for this particular calendar year. We do have to, yeah, make it a goal, make a motion, John?
I will move that we create an ad hoc committee and to do on prevention site visits.
Okay. Is there a second?
And I second that.
Okay, so we have it narrowed down to prevention site visits. And do we wanna have a goal? I know Diana had indicated she'd like to, and I'm not gonna speak for you, but you can, since it's more difficult. That she'd like to make sure we do at least one a month, so there is a number of them. Now, if that doesn't fit, that's okay, but we wanna have something where we're actually moving forward. People are gonna commit to doing these site visits, and again, these site visits are maybe 2, 3, 4 people at a time. Obviously, we can't overwhelm an agency we go out to see, so we have to be careful, and people can then sign up for them and do the ones that they really are interested in. Everybody has a chance to participate. I see you smiling. Do you have something to add?
There's a motion on the floor, so we need a second before we start adding or changing or discussion.
We have a second. There is a second, so we're going.
So we're discussion, sorry, I didn't hear the second.
Okay, no problem. But thank you for keeping that. Yes, John.
How many agencies are contracted doing prevention in the county?
Great question.
I have to get back to you on that.
So I don't know if we can say do one a month, because I'll be facetious, if there's 10,000, one a month isn't gonna do very good. So it would be really good to know how many there are before we define the volume of site visits we're gonna be doing in my.
Okay, we're gonna check. That's a good question. And again, though, we're not gonna hit all of them. I think we're gonna have to be strategic about what we're, prevention, what we're looking at. There's some that are probably very key in that. There's some that do it maybe as a small part of what they're doing. There's maybe ways to narrow that down.
Yeah, I mean, cause that's, again, the PEI network is a lot more broad than like. The question earlier about how many people are in active treatment, so like the 10 to 15, but then you're looking into like tens of thousands of people that are touched, like annually, when we look at our prevention numbers, it's upwards of like 300,000 folks annually. So it's a lot of touches, we have a lot of CBOs, and so it's not just our county staff, it's our CBO network doing a lot of this work. But we'll be about 35.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we'd be looking, you said only probably 2 to 4, so when those 2 to 4 people go and come to the next board meeting, are we looking for them to provide some type of presentation back to this group? Is that the idea?
Yeah, in the forms that we showed you last meeting, when you go back and look at those, or we can send those again, but when you look at those, you'll see that there is a report back, a way to do that. And they don't have to come one by one, they can go back to the committee first, the committee can look at them if they want to, and then bring the whole group back, or we can do it one by one. Either way, I mean, I think that, again, I really want to get the ad hoc committee as involved as possible in this, but I know it's confusing, and we want to make sure we get there.
It seems like one by one, I mean, if we're gonna try and do this every year and do one, I think that's reasonable if everybody else's commitments, right, and you get 12, but it would be nice to, I'm not saying do one by one, but it would be nice if we're going out there and spending the time that we then have some type of like formal report back per month, whether you do all 12 in 1 month or in one, but it had to be a focus and have that one we talked about
Right.
a little bit.
Okay, it's a good suggestion, I think we could definitely do that. Sylvia?
So we have 18 on our board, correct? And supervisor, I mean, for the roll call, it says 18 people, and then supervisor Olivia counts as that. Also, when we're talking about,
He's one of them.
so for ad hoc, it has to be one less than half, correct?
Correct.
So we would, the most on this ad hoc committee could be 8. And then,
Well, the ad hoc. Just give you a little more flexibility, the ad hoc committee could be proposing a structure. Around, within which all the committee members could have activity. But you're the ones proposing what the structure is, managing it, making it move, making it happen. And then other members of the board could, go off and do a site visit.
that was my
Without
question.
becoming a member of the ad hoc committee, just because you get a site visit.
Okay, that was my roundabout way of getting there, thank you.
Yeah, I think that was my idea too, that the committee sets up the structure, we can, and then helps put together how to contact these CBOs, and then offers it to everybody to say, okay, we think we're gonna go visit X CBO and Y CBO to start with, who's available to come or wants, or has the interest to do it. But the committee's gonna have to, make it like, okay, we're gonna go on.
Yes.
And we can't have like everybody saying, oh, I can go on Thursday or Monday, it has to be kind of structured like that. It's more of an administrative kind of thing. Yeah. John?
Sorry, would we be able to interact with BCBH to identify of the list of 35, who's doing what, where, when, and how much, so we can narrow it down?
Yeah. And also they may have specifics, and I don't know this, but there could be specific ones they might want us to go out and look at to be most helpful. Well, we will ask them. That's okay. Whatever you need. Okay. Okay. So I guess the answer is yes.
So I want to be on the ad hoc.
Great. Would you like to be the chair?
Sure. I was in the military, you're not supposed to volunteer for anything.
So we have a motion in a second.
Oh, first we have to do it. Thank you. Okay. So hold that thought. you can even think about it a little bit, because we have to vote first on the goal. Because we have a motion in a second. Okay, Nancy,
I'm just wondering if we, do we need to limit what we're site visits to prevention, or could we just have it a little bit more broad? There might be housing things we wanna see, other, functioning, like places where people go to get care, that go home. There's so many different combinations of how things work. Some are residential. I would be more inclined to just skip the P and I thing, not that we wouldn't do some, but maybe not do only just that, but. Is that was the motion though? Was it the motion that you?
it's in this motion, and we have to vote on that, right? But as part of discussion, an alternate, an additional motion could be made, I should say, not an alternate, that might want to focus on a different area. We wouldn't have to just do one, or we could start with one and then go somewhere else. Yeah.
Again, this is just my thoughts, but with our chair of the committee, I think it's a good for that committee to get the information on these different organizations, a general list, to look at them together, to have the first meeting be around some type of recommendation. I don't think I think we should keep the motion open to not necessarily being a specific topic today, because I don't feel like I would be educated enough on the different things to say that's definitely a direction, but I think that's a great first step for the committee to take, is to meet as a smaller group. Have that be the focus and come up with a recommendation of exactly, is it gonna be really focused, or can it be more broad across these areas? And it'd be great if we could get from behavioral health, a general list to be able to look at and say, all right, it'd be great to have these two from here, this area, this area, this area, based again on maybe what's aligned for the strategic plan this year and be most beneficial for us to visit. And again, I think that's probably the job of the ad hoc committee to do rather than decide here.
Great suggestion.
This is Genevieve. I agree with Nancy. I think the motion is very limited to just prevention. I think I've been on this board since 2021 and I've never done a site visit. I think we're always like hyping ourselves up to do the site visit and then we just don't quite get there. So I've never done one. That being said, I think just something a little bit more broad so that we know what it is we're looking for, what we're gonna go to and then what we can expect. I think to Sylvia's point, some of our providers, don't speak English. And so I think we also have to be cognizant of those site visits that we should be providing that language access for the folks on the committee so that they can also speak to staff in languages that aren't English. So that should be a consideration as well for the ad hoc committee. John, thank you.
Great suggestions, okay. So I'm sorry.
Yeah, so that's why, my initial suggestion in the executive meeting was. Because it's just a requirement that we just start. And pick one place next month while we're working on our goals. I don't know if that's allowed, but just so that. Cause the requirement is that we meet every month, so. That it's just not actually something that we're supposed to be doing anyways. And then after that site visit, people can report on what they. To get a more clear picture of what we'd be looking for. So my suggestion was just to start as, and make it a requirement that we just pick something.
It's a good way to start. Put your finger here to start.
Yeah.
Like, think of like.
But.
Okay. Well, okay, John.
So my experience is if we keep it a little more limited and focused, we're gonna get the results out of it. But it should be the responsibility of the ad hoc committee to decide where we're gonna go, what we're gonna ask, and what are we looking for, et cetera, rather than just broad based, in my opinion.
Okay, so right now we're still discussing under the motion. So we are gonna need to vote on that, and if we want to make an alternate or a different motion, we can do that. But at this point, the motion is to. You wanna repeat your motion?
Create an ad hoc committee with the focus on doing site visits. CBOs that are doing prevention work.
Did I second the motion?
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that is the motion that we're not gonna be voting on. Is everybody clear on the motion? Okay. Sylvia, can you, take?
Solar Bartlett,
Hold on, I'm sorry, is there another question?
Excuse me,
Yeah.
does that motion include that John is gonna be the chair?
No. I was just being funny, but I also wanna make sure I get a chair.
Daniel Bednar,
Yes.
Nancy Borchard,
No,
Jeffrey Allen Davis, he's not here, sorry, Chris Dyer,
Yes.
Genevieve Flores Hato,
No.
myself, Sylvia Garcia, yes. Rebecca Gregorian,
Yes.
Chris Ridge,
No.
Supervisor Levier,
Yes.
Diane McKay,
Yes,
Sheila,
You just need to go up.
I need you to turn off
You
your
can't
mic.
oh, sorry.
Okay,
Yes.
Diane.
yes. Yes,
John Stencil,
Yes.
and Cheryl Heitman.
I'm gonna say yes, but did you, some of that, did she call you? Oh, she did, okay, I missed that, I'm sorry, okay. Okay, so the yeses would happen, so we would start as our first goal. To be looking for site visits. Setting up an ad hoc committee that will establish how we're gonna do that, where we're gonna go. What the recommendations would be on that, and bring that back to the board. As soon as we can, just so we can get started, but if there's one, then maybe, well, I don't even do that, so I don't wanna confuse this more, so, okay. So now we need a maximum of 8 people who are willing to be on this first ad hoc committee. Doesn't mean that we won't establish maybe a second one on a different kind of. Even if we're doing the site visits, we can, because we're so specific on this one, we can establish a second one with less specificity or a different specific topic. This one is just prevention, people are interested in doing that, and remember, the advantage of ad hoc committees is, because they can be done by Zoom. So you won't have to drive from Simi or wherever you're driving from to get her to meet. You can if you want to, but you don't have to, so. So it's a real advantage to be able to do that. Okay. Alright, so now it's time for us to get volunteers and people who wanna serve, if you know at this point, and if you don't know, you'll let us know later, but if you know right now that you wanna do this besides John. Great, okay, and Daniel, and you're gonna, oh, great, okay, we're getting, great, okay. Anybody else knows right now they wanna be on the ad hoc committee? Diane?
sure.
Is it off?
She's out.
No, I'm here. I'm good. I would like to serve on the site visits. I would like to see them be a little broader, but we can talk about it as a committee.
So you're a yes,
Yes.
okay, great. I just like to have at least one seasoned person, not, you guys will do a great job, I don't have any question about that, it's just nice to get somebody who's a little more seasoned to begin with and hopefully. Okay, but we have 4 people right now, yes, I do.
I'll serve on that.
Oh, great, thanks, okay, great, okay. So, Okay, so I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5. Is that the, would you have Sylvia? Okay. Okay, and if anybody decides when they leave and they want to still do it beyond that particular one, let me know. Great, okay, so I do need, before we leave, if possible, I don't want to spend much more time on this, but is there one, is there one of you that would like to be the chair? And the chair coordination is just a matter of coordinating a time. The department can set up the Zoom for us, so we don't have to do that. But it's mostly just reaching out to the other committee members and scheduling a time for the first meeting. And from there on, when you want to meet, etc. But you'll do it.
I'd be happy to do it.
Awesome. Okay. See, I picked the right person to pick out. Okay, great.
Twisting my arm.
Yeah, I know, it's great. Well, it's good. You have a little group here. All right, so we can send you the contact information for the others that are gonna be on your committee. And you can get started as soon as you want to, which would be great.
And then who would be the contact within VCPH to get a list of all those agencies, et cetera?
Karen.
Oh, Karen. Lucky Karen. She just happens to be here today, so that's good timing. Okay, great. All right, thank you all for doing that. We've got our first goal, but we have a couple goals because we already have the procedures and policies, so we'll move forward. Thank you all for doing that. Okay. Okay, orientation for new board members. Last week we talked about it. It wasn't set as an action item, so we couldn't vote on it. So just a matter of, I'll remind you what it is, and then we just need to vote on it to make it official. So we're gonna fashion this so that when a new member is appointed by their supervisor, that because we're often different districts, then we would have one main person who is in charge of orienting that person from their district. And that just needs a motion.
I'll
We
make
talked
the
about it
motion.
last time.
I'll make the motion.
Motion it.
You move it. Okay, thank you. Second.
Diana.
Diana, second. Great, okay. All right, Sylvia, any other discussion? Okay, Sylvia, can you again take the roll next?
Running down. Okay, hold on.
Why have no paper here?
Sola Bergen,
Yes.
Daniel Bennar,
Yes.
Nancy Borchard. Yes. Chris Steyer,
Yes.
Jenny Florisado,
Yes.
myself, yes. Rebecca Gregorian. Yes. Chris Rich,
Yes.
Supervisor LeBear.
Yes.
John Sensel,
Yes.
Diane McKay,
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
and then Cheryl Hyman.
Yes. Is that everybody? Okay, that motion passes. Thank you. And again, if you're willing to be that person in your district who would orient new members, please let me know. It's kind of fun. You get to know people better and you're letting them know what goes on at the board. So it's a really easy thing. We don't have that many vacancies, so there's not gonna be that many appointments coming up. And speaking of appointments, just to add to that, we do still need a member who's 25 or under. Because that is one of the new state mandates for the makeup of this committee. As you know, we are state mandated committees, so they occasionally will put in new recommendations or obligations, whatever. So anyway, that's the only one we don't have filled right now. So if you know of anybody who you think is 25 or under who would like to serve, that'd be great to let me know, because then I'll know where to ask which supervisor to appoint them if we don't. Okay. Okay, data notebook, Diane.
Okay, we got the information back. You should have a copy of the data notebook that was filled out by Turning Point, which provides adult wellness centers for Ventura County behavioral health. And so if looking at that, unless there's only 4 answers at the end that I need to fill out, which are just basically who to contact, board's presiding officer, just basic information. The rest of it is for you to look at and see if you have any questions. And if there aren't any questions, concerns, this is what will be sent to the state. And there's a button this year that I know to push, so I get a copy back for all of us once it's been submitted, which I didn't do last.
Can you turn off?
Okay, no, you can speak now.
Okay, so are there any questions for Diane and Dan? No, but this is something that we're obligated to do by the state every year, and they pick a topic. Last year was homeless, this year's, this year, it's this wellness centers, that's just the adult wellness centers, not the ones at the schools. Any other questions on it? It's kind of a procedural thing, but we do have to vote to approve it. So I assume, Diane, you're gonna make a motion to
Yes.
approve.
I move approval for me to send this to the state as our data notebook.
Sorry. Okay,
Okay.
okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion, any questions? All right, oh, Sylvia, you're getting to be busy today, sorry. All right, we'll take a roll call vote.
Here's a second.
Oh, I have some.
Sola Bergen,
Yes.
Daniel Benar,
Yes.
Nancy Borchard. Yes. Chris Dyer,
Yes.
Genevieve Floresado,
Yes.
myself, yes. Rebecca Gregorian. Yes. Chris Rich,
Yes.
Supervisor Laguerre,
Yes.
Diane, I'm sure it's a yes.
Yes.
John Stencil
Yes.
and Cheryl Hyman.
Yes, that motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Diane, for all your work on that. That's really helpful to have someone do it so quickly. All right, new business. So I put down here, meeting time change, and I apologize to all of you who spent a lot of time with us last year going over how we're gonna change the meeting times to everybody, what is best for everyone. This is our old meeting time, which we are going to have to go back to for these general board meetings, because the state now has their Prop 1 directors meeting on Monday afternoons, and obviously Dr. Dennering has to be a part of that. So in order to get her out in time, we have to be out by 3:30. So it's unfortunate, because I know we spent a lot of time on this, but without knowing what was gonna happen, and we do have to have Dr. Dennering, obviously, at these meetings. This last time she had to leave early and we couldn't get some questions answered, so it's really important that she leaves, so. I'm just gonna say, I'm not gonna ask for a vote or anything, I'm just gonna say we're changing the meeting time, the general board meetings to 1 instead of 2 from now on. And what, another item that was gonna go along with that, but I think I missed that, was, next month is December. And often we go dark as a board in December, which I'm gonna suggest we do. The executive committee will still meet, and certainly the ad hoc committee would be great if you all could meet, and it gives you kind of a chance to have additional meetings that aren't part of this general meeting, so. just note that now. I'll give you the date later, but, of our next meeting, which also has to be changed because it falls on one of the King days, so it'll be the following month, week, but we'll give you the meeting time. What is it?
It'll be January
26th. It's gonna be January 26th. Next year. Okay, the Brown Act has an update that does some of the items to affect us, so we are going to hear from our attorney. Advisor from the county counsel's office. Marty's gonna tell us what those are, and you should also have a handout on that.
So the Brown Act. Oops, that'll make it easier. The Brown Act is officially the most amended piece of legislation that exists in any of the California codes. I actually saw the numbers a few years ago. And the number of amendments since it was first passed is just astounding. And now they've sort of built into, it's the rare California legislature session that does not contain at least some change to the Brown Act. However, the way that they're now currently crafting some of the amendments so that they have sunset dates means that they built in an automatic requirement to go back and look at the Brown Act every couple of years. And that's essentially what we're dealing with this year. There were a number of amendments that were adopted during COVID, mostly to allow for all of the different versions of remote meeting. And that had not been in before, but when they added them in, they added in a sunset provision that would have basically made them disappear in January, and so that motivated them to take a look at the Brown Act. And then they later, that taking a look came out to be 25 pages of legislation. And it's even the digest that is written by the Legislative Council is almost 4 pages single space, trying to describe all of the various little tweaks here, tweaks there, whatever. What I tried to do was put on one page, which is labeled SB 707, that was the bill. So if you want to look up more detail, easy to go look it up, and I give you the web page or the website where you just go there, plunk in SB 707, and you can get it in all its glory in various different forms. So for example, they have a view where you can look at it and it shows just the amendments and shows you what it finally ended up as, and you can see all the changes really easily. And there were sort of 2 large groups of requirements that I thought might actually bear some interest to you all. There are plenty of ones that don't even apply to your operations at all. First of all, they're putting in a big emphasis on the ability of the public to attend via 2-way telephonic and audiovisual platforms. The great news here is you already do that. Believe me, it's more rare than you might think. That kind of tech, as much as we stumble over in here and make jokes about it's not working and everything else, you're actually sort of in the forefront for what you do in terms of how long we've been doing that. But everyone else is going to have to now join the club. We're required to adopt, not adoptee, you have to adopt, and comply with a policy for this board for how you're going to handle disruptions to that kind of remote participation. So the idea here is that as more people start doing this with this kind of access, that there are malicious actors out there who will do things to try to disrupt that. And there's something called Zoom bombing. I'm not even sure how you do that. But there are people who do know how to do it, and they will literally start trying to mess that up for whatever reason, or they're just their own purposes and malice and disruption. So we need to have a policy that says if that starts to happen, not just one individual person being disruptive, but if it starts to happen, and clearly we're having what I've also heard referred to as a denial of service attack, something like that, where basically people are trying to interrupt and keep the public from participating and hearing what you all have to say. We need a policy for how to respond to that. And so that I noticed that there's an idea of developing a policy and procedure process. That could be one of the first things that goes through that process. There is a requirement that we translate the agenda into all applicable languages, and applicable means that 20% of the population of Ventura basically uses that language. So you're again already ahead because you've already translated your agenda. There is some there are some alternate special emergency teleconferencing provisions that will apply now to what are called local emergencies. When the Board of Supervisors declares a local emergency for some reason, the public health director declares a local emergency for some reason, there are going to be special provisions for teleconferencing. So think COVID, and they're trying to sort of think ahead and say, well, what if we have another COVID tomorrow? You know, we're gonna have to then flip into these special emergency teleconferencing provisions. So if that happens, we'll be ready, we'll be able to walk you through those. But they are gonna include the local emergencies now. There's gonna be internet posting of emergency meetings, so that I think, you know, for example, I think the Board of Supervisors had an emergency meeting the other day. And it was always assumed that the Board of Supervisors would post that, and I'm sure did on the website for the county. But if you were to have an emergency meeting for some reason, you would now be required to post on your internet site that you were having an emergency meeting. You were just left off before, so this is now, you're just being included the same way in a provision that already existed. They're also trying to make all the different noticing, disclosure, accessibility, and public commenting versions the same for all the different types of, you know, just cause, emergency, all of that sort of stuff. And they're trying to do what we call in the legal business, harmonize all that stuff that has been adopted in little pieces all the way along, and they're trying to harmonize it. So for example, one of the things that they want to see in the future is if we have, as we did this particular meeting, we had a member participating remotely. In the minutes for the meeting next month, or next, whenever the minutes are adopted. Those minutes should include a notation that Diane was not physically here at the meeting, but that she participated from remotely because of used emergency, right? Yeah. And then there's a specific call out. I think those of us who do this kind of law always thought that this was true, but there's a specific provision now saying that if any of you have a disability, that you, as a reasonable accommodation because of that disability, want to participate remotely on a regular basis. There are, that can be a reasonable accommodation that can be worked into this whole process. That makes sense. Just cause has been expanded to include physical or family emergencies and military service. So that, again, for all those different sorts of reasons, you can use just cause if you want to. Authority to remove what are called, I'm calling disruptors, they don't actually use that word in the statute. But if somebody came to the meeting either here or remotely, and they attempted to disrupt the meeting, there is an authority for the chair, the chair of the board to basically exclude that person from the physical room. But they never had the ability to exclude them from the remote room, or the remote part of the proceedings, and now you will have that authority. Regardless of what version of remote you're using. We now, on the website for the BHAB, we have to include a system for electronically accepting and fulfilling requests for meeting agendas and documents. So you have your agenda, you post it on the website, but we now actually have to make it so that people can sign up so that they get a copy of your agenda every time. See what I'm saying? So it's, anyway. none of these are, you know, rocket science. It's just, once that you open up a category of things, especially in the legislature, you get lots of little bright ideas of different people. There are going to be some additional requirements to making that internet web page accessible, including translation of the page itself. And so, well, you know, the folks who are BCBH who've been keeping the website for you will have to update it and come back and show you that, in fact, it's now gonna meet all the Brown Act requirements. And, last but not least, you are going to be required as a Brown Act board to make reasonable efforts, whatever you decide reasonable efforts are, to invite groups that do not traditionally come to your public meeting to come to your public meeting. Now, the good thing is that you're in this verbiage, a broad discretion to decide who you want to invite and how you want to invite them. But their idea is basically that you're going to go out to groups that might have an interest in what you do in your jurisdiction and actually go out and say, hey, our meetings are 1 o'clock on the third Thursday, and we'd like to see you to come there. You can come and you can make comments, and that you're responsible for doing some level of outreach about the fact that your meeting actually exists, is what this comes down to. But again, you have broad discretion, so that means that probably no one would ever say you didn't do enough. But that's up to you. That's a new duty that you have as a public board. And last but not least, we have to make sure that we give you all a copy of the Brown Act. You can let me know if you want it by paper or electronically, but we can certainly provide you a copy of the updated Brown Act. And if anyone, you know, you're over the next couple of weeks and months, because most of this doesn't go into effect until at least January. Some of it doesn't go into effect until July of next year. You're gonna see all kinds of little summaries and people are gonna, you know, interpret something one way or another. And if you have any questions at all, please just give me send me an email and let me know. And I'll be happy to see if we can try to track down, you know, if they come up with something that's of significance to your board and to your operations. But so far, that's what I've been able to draw out of the 25 pages so far that actually has something to do with your operations. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Any questions? Oh, Sylvia?
I just have a quick question. Sometimes it gets confusing, when you say you're like, you're representing District 3 and not representing the board as a whole. So if we wanted to go out and, let's say, give somebody, if we created like a flyer on a topic that's coming up and inviting them, how do you do that as a representative versus, would you have to get that approved by the board, like, or through the chair, or through, how does that work?
Well, I think exactly how you're gonna make that happen is really sort of a matter for all of you to weigh in on.
Okay.
So, because essentially you're trying to fulfill that duty that the board itself as a whole has. So I would just say, come up with a procedure for getting that kind of, maybe it's as simple as show it to the chair and chair goes, yeah, that's fine. Or you guys might want some other more elaborate procedure.
So that's another, that would be another procedure, okay, not another ad hoc committee for Brown Act, okay.
No, no, that goes under policy and procedures. These are exactly the kind of things that we're gonna be able to include. Now, we've never had policy and procedures really formally for the board, so this would allow us to make these available to everybody once they're passed by the board, but it'll come back here. Any other comments on this, on the Brown Act or questions? Okay, then we've had a couple trainings, so I'm just assuming everybody's expert on this. But if they're not, Maria just keeps us informed of what we need to do. She's great about that. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Yeah, I'm doing all that. That's great.
You're probably welcome.
Okay, future presentation requests, if you have any, let me know. And we do keep a list. I think by January, we're trying to get a presentation by Gold Coast, which I think sort of goes along with what we talked about today, and Marlene Torres, who's a member, is, an employee at Gold Coast, and, she said she will do a presentation, and we're trying to coordinate the dates, so hopefully that'll be in January. That's our goal, anyway. Any contracts that you want to ask questions of the staff on? Were included in your agenda. Okay, I'm not seeing anybody else, any, let me know. So the next meeting, we will, as I said, have an executive committee meeting in December at the normal time and place for anybody who's on the executive committee. And if you have specific questions, direct them to me for that committee. If for any reason something comes up and we have to meet in December, you'll be notified ahead of time, obviously, of the meeting, but I'm not anticipating anything at this point, but who knows, so. Any other public comments? Okay,
Diane.
oh, Diane?
Yep. I just wanted to show that Loretta Dennering was listed in Who's Who in Healthcare in Pacific Coast Business Times, which I think is really important because no one from behavioral health has been recognized before that I'm aware of. So good, that's a good thing. Congratulations.
Awesome. Nancy?
Oh, there's another, there are people.
No, they're
clapping.
clapping.
Yes.
Oh, I just wanted to also share that I had seen a presentation about Nate's Place on Los Angeles television station. So it's well done, talked about they did there and talked to the parents. So I just thought, oh, Ventura made the news, did something good.
Yeah, that's great.
That's great. Yeah, they're
Definitely one of our CBOs. Yeah, great. Yeah, Chris?
Earlier, Dr. Dennering had mentioned the VHSA program guide phase 2. I just wanted to make sure people were aware that CDPH has announced a link for input for public comment that is actually, I think, due by December 2nd, which would be before we meet again. And I just wanted to make sure people were aware of that. I could provide the link or we can follow up with the link and whatnot. Just wanted to make sure that people knew about that.
Great, thank you. We do have that link. We can certainly provide it. Was that me? I feel like we did that once before, no?
It's the second one.
Oh, it's the second. Okay, second round, okay. Great, anything else? Any other public comments? No, okay, seeing none, the meeting is adjourned. We won't be raining so hard. And all drive safely, and please remember the meeting time change. Thank you.
We move on. Yep.